Hi, my name is Adrienne Stratton, and I am the Marketing and Communications Director for the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, USA. And today I'm here with renowned pianist Anne-Marie McDermott, who is performing Beethoven's First Piano Concerto with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra on April 11th and 12th. For our online audiences, just some quick info. Anne-Marie McDermott is an educator, an advocate, a traveling performer, and a gifted artistic director. She's curated programs at Bravo Vale Music Festival, Ocean Reef Chamber Music Festival in Florida, Knights Center's Chamber Music Festival at Oklahoma State University, and more. Annie, thank you so much for chatting with me today and sharing with our virtual audience and our YouTube followers. We're so excited to have you with us this weekend to share your talents with our community here in Vancouver and in Southwestern Washington.
Thank you, Adrienne. Oh, it's amazing to be here. I've never spent time in Vancouver before. I've been in Portland a lot, but I'm just having the best time with the symphony here. Had such a fun rehearsal last night, so I can't wait for the pictures. Yeah, it was really great. Very electric.
So there's just a few things that I'd love to talk to you about today. You have successfully balanced a very active international performance career, multiple artistic leadership roles, which I can imagine can't have been easy to do that. So how does your experience as a performer influence your vision when you're curating programs for festivals like Bravo Vale, which you've done for quite some time? How does that inform your other role whenever you're planning these beautiful festival programs that you've curated?
Oh, thank you. You know, it's been such a wonderful evolution of learning throughout the course of my life, right? But one of the things that I think has been so helpful to me as an artistic director or as a curator is all of my experience as a chamber musician. You learn so many skills when you're playing chamber music, how to plant the seeds of an idea and let the seeds kind of grow over time so that it's the right time for the right idea. How to really advocate for your ideas. You know, in chamber music rehearsals, you're not going to get your way all the time. You're going to, okay, if I can get this phrase the way I love it, all right, I'll play that phrase the way you love it. That kind of thing. Very importantly, I think is the power of listening to others, listening to people, listening to colleagues, listening to your audience. And obviously, I've been in this world for enough decades that I know the repertoire. I know so many of the players. So I think I understand that every collaboration is not created equal. To form a great concert, you have to put the right artists with the right repertoire, with the right colleagues, and then the concert can be kind of greater than the sum of all the parts uh, of the program. So I feel like I'm always learning about this art form, but for me, it's just been such a great balance to number one, my performance life. That's always been my first priority. But then what a privilege to do these other festivals, the Bravo Vale Festival. This will be my 16th summer coming up. And my final summer, I've decided after 16 years that it's time. There are other dreams that I have that I'll be pursuing after that time.
Wonderful. Well, then I feel compelled to ask, what is your next big project now that you are stepping down at Vale?
Well, number one is I kind of want to simplify, and because I've been a little bit of a workaholic, I admit that. Um, Balancing a performance career with such a busy job as the Bravo Vale Festival. So focusing more on concerts, learning repertoire. I just finished up in the fall recording all five Beethoven piano concerti. I am now going to be embarking on recording all the Mozart piano concerti. So that takes time and energy. I'm playing now more in South America and more in Europe. I'll be doing my first Brahms first piano concerto in late October in Spain. So that'll be priority number one. Number two is mentoring and mostly young pianists. And I've come up with a concept of kind of an artist retreat that for myself, probably another colleague of my generation, and then small group of young artists spend a week together, and it'll be a retreat that'll move around various location. It won't be set in one location, but just an opportunity for everybody to kind of, the young musicians especially, to kind of slow down and just have a week to think about music through a more philosophical lens, not just the act of playing the instrument, but the act of thinking about philosophy and how it relates to humanity, just small subjects like that.
I love that. I love that you have such a specific vision for how you're going to spend that time, and that you have such solid goals in place. And what you just said is a perfect segue into my next little topic of conversation. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Annie, one of the most compelling things to me about your personal story is how you came into this industry. While you came from a very musical family, you were not really coming from a place of economic privilege. No. Reading your story, it seems like your success was really required a lot of very intentional and non-traditional waymaking and determination. And so this made me think, one of the things that I often ask myself as an arts advocate and as an administrator is, who isn't being included? Who doesn't have access? How can we change that? And how do we bridge that gap? And so these are all questions and conversations that center the arts, in our case, orchestra performances, as a community asset. Yes. So what I would love to know, from your unique perspective, what role do you believe these performances play as a community asset? And why is access to the arts important? We think about artists, educators, and institutions working together to expand that access. And I would love, because it is an essential part of the human experience for every community, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the role that these community assets play.
That's a great big question. It's wonderful. No, it's a wonderful question, and how incredible that you're thinking along those lines, right? What I've realized now, being the age I am now, and the experiences that I've had getting me to this place, and having such a very unique path of entry into the classical music world, like you said, I have two sisters who are musicians, but neither of my parents were musicians. They knew nothing about music, nothing. We didn't have the financial wherewithal in any possible way. So one of the lessons I've learned through the years is, if a door opens even a little bit, kind of go through and see what's on the other side of that door. Be courageous. This is your life, right? And so I'm a believer, in karma. I believe that what we put out comes back to us, sometimes in very unexpected ways. And my career is a perfect example of that. And so I think I was, in my early years, my late teen years, I was really very rebellious. And I was really very curious, right? And I wasn't necessarily driven that, oh my God, I need to have a performance career. But I was deeply passionate and curious about what I was doing. And I think that authenticity ended up being an asset, right? Because I wasn't trying to become a musician or an artist for any selfish reasons. It wasn't like, oh, look at me, I can play the piano really well. It was my passion for the music, for the art form, right? And I think when I see what the VSO is doing, and the growth of this incredible institution since I've been here. I just had a wonderful lunch where I was hearing so much more about the whole backstory to the Vancouver, Washington Symphony, to the festival that now you've created the past 3 summers in the community, offering free to the public access to this great orchestra, and breaking down boundaries between audiences and performers. There's I learned some years ago, apparently at the end of the 1800s, in the 1890s, there was a very highly regarded musicologist who wrote this whole treatise about, okay, concerts, classical music concerts, people need to be dressed to the nines. They need to be knowledgeable. They can't clap in between movements. This is a high art form, right? Somehow people believed this guy, and it it changed culturally how classical music was being presented, right? And now in more recent decades, we're all trying to break down those barriers. Like when people say to me, oh, aren't you offended that somebody clapped at the end of the first movement of the Tchaikovsky piano concerto? And my reaction is quite the opposite. I'm like, if the audience didn't clap at the end of the first movement of Tchaikovsky concerto, I just want to walk off stage and cry. Because as obviously I didn't do my job well. And so, and this applies across the board with kids. When we're interacting with kids in our community, we're not trying to say that every kid needs to become facile on an instrument. What we're saying to them is, we're inviting them to kind of unlock their own inner creativity and to form their own opinions, and not to say, okay, you come to a concert, you have to act this way, or you have to love Mozart because everybody loves Mozart. No, they don't have to. Other people may love Led Zeppelin, and that's great. That's great, right? So, and I've had some inspiring experiences with young people. I once was invited to go talk to a group of kids, and as it turns out, this was a school in San Diego for homeless kids, completely underprivileged kids. So I went into this school. I was a little bit nervous, and I'll never forget, I was playing on an upright piano, started playing some fast Bach, and this group of kids, who might have been intimidating, it was maybe 12 of them, they just started moving closer and closer to the piano. We ended up spending an hour together, laughing, playing music, and it was like life-changing for me. I'm like, we're all sharing the same human experience, right? We're all blessed to be born, to be given a life to live, to be our best selves, to be together with other people. And nothing speaks the language of humanity truly than music. It's not words, it's the language of music. And what's so divine about the language of music is that it's both a collective experience and a very individual experience at the same exact time. You're there with a whole audience together, and it's exhilarating and it's thrilling going to a Vancouver Symphony concert, right? It's thrilling. It's awesome hearing this amazing orchestral repertoire, but it's also speaking to each of us very individually about our own journey through life and our own emotions. And so I think viewing the symphony as kind of as a member of the community, and the community viewing the symphony as like taking real ownership. This is our symphony orchestra in this community. Like, there's nothing more beautiful for everybody, for the symphony, for the public, for the community. Like, that's the recipe to me for success.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. That's something that we think about a lot here at the VSO, and I know that it's on the mind of other orchestras all over the country, is, how do we increase access and why is this important? So thank you so much for telling us about your why. And thank you for performing this weekend with the VSO and for giving us your time today. We very much appreciate you. And for our online audience, thank you so much for watching. And remember, art is the highest form of hope, and we hope that you're enjoying this VSO performance. Take care, and we will see you next time.